In 1846, a 10-year-old stepped onto the stage of Salle Pleyel in Paris. He performed 2 concertos, then offered to play any of Beethoven's 32 piano sonatas from memory. That boy was Camille Saint-Saëns. He would master composition, piano, organ, and orchestration at a level few have ever reached. Yet today, his name sits strangely outside the pantheon. The question isn't whether he was good. It's why the world stopped saying so. Faculty described a boy with an uncanny memory, someone who could hear a piece once and play it back perfectly without a score. François Benoit, the Conservatoire's organ professor, wrote in the admission register that Saint-Saëns had a perfect musical memory, able to reproduce identically anything he had heard only once. This was not a casual compliment, but an official acknowledgement of something rare. By 17, Saint-Saëns was no longer just a promising student. In 1852, he headlined his own recital at Salle Pleyel, the most prestigious concert hall in Paris. The program was ambitious: Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 3 and Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 15 in B-flat, K450. These were not pieces chosen to flatter a child's talent, they were the domain of established virtuosos. The press called him a remarkable prodigy, praising his clear articulation and masterful control of the instrument. After the concert, Saint-Saëns stunned the audience by offering to play any of Beethoven's 32 piano sonatas from memory. The crowd called out requests. He played each one instantly, without hesitation or sheet music. There was no trickery, just a mind and technique operating on a level that left even seasoned musicians astonished. The Conservatoire's praise extended beyond his recall. They noted the clarity and order in every phrase, the sense of balance and structure that would later define his work. Even as a teenager, Saint-Saëns was not swept away by showmanship or emotion. Every note was deliberate, every transition seamless. These early performances were not just the promise of future greatness, they were evidence of a musician already formed, already in possession of the skills and discipline that would shape his life. In 19th century music, such completeness was almost unheard of. The question was never whether Saint-Saëns would fulfill his promise, but how far his extraordinary talent might reach. In 1865, Saint-Saëns became principal organist at Église de la Madeleine, Paris's most coveted post. The Cavaillé-Coll organ there, with its orchestral palette and technical innovations, offered him a platform unlike any other. For over 2 decades, he used the instrument as a proving ground, improvising every Sunday on themes suggested by clergy or congregation. Alexandre Gérard, who often listened from the nave, recalled Saint-Saëns spinning a simple hymn into a half-hour of counterpoint, fugue, and shifting colours, each phrase shaped with clarity and restraint. Silence often followed, the audience left in awe. His approach to the organ, precise, never overwhelming, carried into his piano playing. Saint-Saëns insisted that the organ should clarify, not obscure, musical structure. This philosophy is preserved in a handful of mechanical piano rolls he recorded around 1905 on the Velt Mignon system. These rolls, which include the Rhapsodie d'Auvergne and excerpts from his Piano Concerto No. 2, reveal a moderate tempo, crisp articulation, and subtle rubato. The effect is one of balance and control, a musician intent on transparency rather than display. Saint-Saëns' ambitions were never confined to Paris. As a touring virtuoso, he played across Europe and the Americas, making his Carnegie Hall debut in 1885 with Beethoven's Emperor Concerto and an organ improvisation before a packed house. He appeared in London, Berlin, Vienna, Moscow, and Buenos Aires, often switching between piano and organ in a single program. Critics described his performances as technically flawless and emotionally direct, marveling at his ability to command both instruments. Fellow artists took note. Liszt admired his effortless touch, and Rubinstein praised his rare combination of brilliance and insight. A Le Figaro eyewitness remembered, he could improvise a symphony on the spot, his mind and hands in perfect accord. Through organ loft, concert hall, and recording studio, Saint-Saëns established himself as a complete musician, his mastery documented in sound, print, and memory. In Symphony No. 3, the Organ Symphony, a stark 3-note motif, C, E-flat, G-flat, appears in the cellos and basses at the outset. This motif resurfaces at the symphony's climax, not as a triumphant return, but as a brief cyclic gesture, binding the structure from start to finish. The organ, rather than dominating, acts as a gravitational anchor, doubling brass and underpinning harmony with massive pedal points. In bars 210 to 213, the organ's chromatic pads reinforce the orchestra's cadence, expanding the sense of space. Saint-Saëns avoids spectacle, using the organ as a pillar rather than a showpiece, insisting that colour should clarify form. In Danse Macabre, orchestration becomes a tool for narrative. The piece opens with a minor ostinato, a ticking clock in muted strings and xylophone, decades ahead of its time in programmatic percussion. The violin solo enters on a tritone, B-flat to F-sharp, instantly unsettling. The three-note motif, G-A-B-flat, passes between instruments, fragmented and inverted, building to a double-stop passage that stretches the violin's voice. Even at its loudest, the orchestration remains transparent. Solo violin floats above muted strings, brass erupts for the dance's climax. The effect is eerie precision, a skeleton dance rendered with surgical clarity. The Carnival of the Animals, often dismissed as light fare, is a showcase of technical WIT. In Aquarium, Saint-Saëns creates an ethereal texture with celesta-like piano and parallel thirds in the strings, a technique Debussy would later borrow. The Swan distills lyricism to a single arching melody over a descending tetrachord, the accompaniment compressed into one measure. Woodwind doublings and bassoon ostinatos add layers without heaviness, and in the finale, the motif from the elephant returns in inversion, a subtle unifying gesture. Each work reveals a mind obsessed with clarity and proportion, every bar calculated, every instrument chosen for purpose. The result is music defined by structural logic and luminous sound. Doubt was never far from Saint-Saëns' reputation. Critics argued that his music, for all its brilliance, could feel too perfect, more an intellectual exercise than a vessel for raw emotion. In the Parisian press, the debate played out in sharp language. Le Ménestrel, writing in 1878, called the piano quintet faultless in construction, but perhaps too restrained for the modern heart. Later, as the Fourth Piano Concerto premiered in 1875, reviewers praised its seamless form, but questioned its passion. The same charge echoed through the decades: technical mastery, but at what cost? Saint-Saëns met these accusations head-on, both in his music and in public letters. His reply was not bombast, but demonstration. The piano quintet's slow movement, with its chromatic descent passed from piano to strings, delivers a quiet intensity that undermines the notion of emotional detachment. In the fourth concerto, a three-note wind chord, E-flat, G, B-flat, threads through the entire work, binding it with a subtle unity that rewards close listening. The aria Mon cœur s'ouvre à ta voix from Samson et Dalila remains a model of expressive restraint, the vocal line shaped by the inflection of the French language, the orchestra reduced to a cushion of root position triads. Saint-Saëns' influence reached far beyond his own scores. In 1908, he wrote the first original film score for L'Assassinat du Duc de Guise, crafting a full orchestral accompaniment with precise cue sheets and a 38-player ensemble. The press hailed it as a new standard for cinema, with Le Figaro calling it a dazzling illustration of how music can give shape to moving images. This achievement set the template for the next century of film music, from Hollywood's golden age to modern soundtracks. Today, his legacy is experiencing a quiet resurgence. The Saint-Saëns International Competition awarded its grand prize in 2026 to a pianist performing his rarely heard Étude en forme de valse. New recordings of the piano quintet and organ symphony have appeared on major labels, and the Samson aria is once again a staple in vocal competitions. The clarity, balance, and invention that once drew criticism now inspire a new generation of performers and listeners to reassess his place in music history. Saint-Saëns' genius, once overshadowed by the drama of others, stands revealed in the enduring evidence of his craft. The legacy of Saint-Saëns stands as a testament to pure mastery, yet true greatness is often measured as much by resonance as by skill. In an era obsessed with spectacle, his clarity and command challenge us to reconsider what endures. Sometimes the most complete genius is the most quietly revolutionary.